Says here, first question. So the first thing I would do is label the corresponding side. So this is triangle 1, triangle 2. Now, the one way you can see which sides correspond to side is using the angle. So this is the 90-degree angle, and opposite the 90-degree angle is 40, right? So this side corresponds to the side on the smaller triangle that's also opposite the 90-degree angle, which is this one. So I'll put a line like that. Right, so those two, just to tell you that those two correspond to each other. The side opposite 35 is 32. The side opposite 35 degrees is 20. So those two correspond, and obviously the last one correspond to each other as well. So to see if they're proportional, right? So they're similar. If they're similar, they should be proportional. So let's pick two sides. Let's pick this one, the 40. The 40 on the big triangle corresponds to 25 on the small triangle. The 32 on the small big triangle corresponds to 20 on the small triangle. Are they these two proportional? So one way you can do it is cross multiply, and if their products are equal to each other, they're proportional. Another way you can do is, let's say we can simplify this, right? 40 over 32 is the same thing as 5 over 4. 25 over 20 divided by top by 5, it's also 5 to 4. Look at that. We can say they're equal to each other. So that's another way of doing it. So again, you can cross multiply, and if you did cross multiply, you would get 800 equals 32 times 25, which is also 800, right? So then they're proportional, they're also similar, right? Yeah, that's it. This one, let's again match up the sides, corresponding sides. This corresponds to this, and this corresponds to that. Are they similar? If they're similar, they're proportional. So 18 over 36, no, sorry, 18 corresponds to 25, and 36 corresponds to 45. Are they proportional? Well, if you cross multiply, I guess that's the easiest way, right? No, big fan of that. 8 times 45, 18 times 18 times 45, that gives you 810. So if I multiply these two, I get 810. If I multiply these two, 36 and 25, what will I get? No idea. I'll get 900. So, oops, not proportional. Sorry, yeah, not proportional. So 18 over 36, and again, if you can, we can simplify this. 18 over 36 simplifies to 2 over 1 half. Right? Oops. 25 over 45 divided by 5 is 5. Simplified to 5 or 9. Definitely not equal to each other. So, not similar. Okay. 3. Again, let's identify the corresponding sides. So 34 here would match up with 17. 60-degree angle is the opposite is 15, and the 60-degree angle here, the opposite is 30, so those two are corresponding, which makes these the 8 and 16 corresponding. So let's pick two sides. Let's say this 34 corresponds to 17, and then the 30, the side that measures 30, corresponds to this. Oops, I forgot to put two lines here. This side that measures 30 corresponds to the side that measures 15. Are they equal to each other? Well, you can cross multiply. I would simplify. It's so much easier. 17 divided by 2 is 30. It's 15. And right away you can tell that they are equal to each other. And if they are similar because they're proportional. Again, you could cross multiply these two. Okay. 30 times 17, and then 34 times 15, and they both will give you no idea. 5 newton. Okay, so this is, yes, similar triangles or similar figures. All right, so that's that for that. Right, proportion to find the length. So now we can use the proportion, the same idea to find the missing angle, this missing side, if they are proportional. So let's, again, like I said, identify the corresponding sides. So you can tell that this corresponds to this. And this over here corresponds to this one, and then this corresponds to this. But we don't want to use, so when we set a proportion, let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to use x corresponds to 15, right? X and 15. And at the bottom, if I use, and let me call this, put a question mark, if I use that corresponds to 20, I'm going to have two unknowns. Let me just call that y, for example. So you don't want to use this proportion because you have two unknown values, right? So instead of the y, I'm going to pick two different sides. So not the side that I want to use, but I want to use this one. 35 corresponds to which side? 25. Now I can find out what the value of x is. So you have choices. How would I do this? Well, the simplest way, well, I don't know, there's no simple way. It's just a matter of choice. You could have done this, x over 35. Let's simplify the right side. 15 over 25 simplifies to 3. Divided by 5 is 3 over 5, right? And then you can see that there's a relationship here. 5 times what's 37 times 7, and this would be times 7. Therefore, x is 21. So you could have done that. Or if you didn't want to do that, you can cross multiply. So you can cross multiply this. X times 25 is 25x. And 35 times 15 is, I don't know, 525. Divide both sides by 25. And then x equals 21. Get the same exact answer. So, really up to you. Again, corresponding sides. This one's a little bit simpler. This side corresponds to this. We want to, what do we want to find? We want to find x and y. All right. So that corresponds to that. This one corresponds to this. And this one corresponds to this. I'll put 3 marks and this 2 little dots here. So we need to find both sides. So let's set our proportion. 54 corresponds to 28, right? 54 corresponds to 28. The y corresponds to 35. So that's our first proportion. Let's see. What can I do here? 54 actually corresponds to 42. I'm sorry, I don't know what I put 28. Okay. 54 corresponds to 42. So again, can we simplify? So let me see. So yeah, we could have simplified. So let's do it this way by simplifying. 54 equals y. Now simplify 42 with 35 and divide both top and bottom by 7. 42 divided by 7 is 6. 35 divided by 5 is 7. Now, can I find a relationship? Well, times 9, right? Isn't it? 6 times 9 is 54. So therefore, this would be times 9, which makes my y 45. You can cross multiply. Okay. You could have cross multiply after you simplified as well. It's up to you. So 42y equals 54 times 35 by 1,890. Divide by 42, divide by 42, and y equals 45. So now I can go over here and write 45. I'm still not done because now I gotta find x. So to find x, I don't know, you can use anything. So again, let's just keep that. 54 corresponds to 42, and then x corresponds to 28. Again, you can cross multiply. I'm just going to simplify this ratio. Divide by 7. Divide by 7. I get 6 over 4. I could have gone even higher. Right, I got divide by 14. But this is enough. So again, 6 times 9 is 54. And 4 times 9 will give us our x value. In this case, x equals 4 times 9 is 36. You could have cross multiplied, that's okay too. So if you cross multiply, and let's cross multiply here, 54, instead of using the big numbers, let's cross multiply here. These two, I get x times 6 is 6x. 54 times 4 is 216. Divide both sides by 6, and x equals 36. Now here you want to actually draw a picture, so I would definitely suggest. So you have a 36-inch yardstick. So this is 36 inches, right? And it casts a shadow that's 21 feet. Okay, and then we have a tall building, right? And then we have a shadow, and the shadow of this building is 168. So they're asking for this. What's that? Well, obviously, this corresponds to this, and this side corresponds to this side. So we can say 36 corresponds to x, that's 21 corresponds to 168. Well, can you find a relationship? So we can divide 168 divided by 21 and find that it's 8, so it's times 8. So on top I'm going to multiply times 8. And x equals 36 times 8. 4 goes 2, 24, 264. 264 inches. Now, if you wanted to cross multiply, that's okay too. So I'll do that. You can simplify before. It's much easier if you use smaller numbers, but if you didn't want to do that, you get 21x. 36 times 168 is 6,048. Divide by 21, divide by 21, and x equals, x equals 288. Did I do something wrong? So let me just, give me a second. 288, 21 times 8. Oh, 36 times 8, sorry. It's 288. So here I wrote the wrong answer. It's 288. Okay. 5. Find the missing side. So in this case, well, we can set up a proportion. X, so again, let me just put a line here. X and then put these two. So X corresponds to this side, which is 6, which makes 25. On the big triangle corresponds to that. Cross multiply if you choose to. You can do that. This one is easy enough. You can cross multiply. So I get 10x equals 150. Divide by 10, divide by 10, and x equals 15. If you didn't want to cross multiply, you can simplify the 6 over 10 to 3 over 5. And then 5 times what's 25 times 5, which makes, right, 3 times 5. And that's going to give us x equals 15 as well. So, don't matter which way you do it. Whichever way you feel more comfortable. Okay, this is the hypotenuse, right? The right angle triangle, which makes this the hypotenuse. So those two corresponds, and then this side corresponds to that side. So 50 corresponds to x, as 40 corresponds to 20. Let's simplify this. So instead of 50 over 40, we can write this 5 over 4. Much easier. So x times, sorry, 20, how does a 20 become 4? Divide by, sorry, okay, went the wrong way. We're going this way. So 4 times what's 20 is times 5. So over here, 5 times what? 5 times 5, we're going to apply the same multiplier, and 5 times 5 is 25. So x equals 25. I'm going to also cross multiply for you. And you get 40x. Cross multiply this. 5 times 20 is 1,000. Divide by 40. Divide by 40. X equals 25. Okay, 3. So again, you can sort of figure things out, right? So it helps to. So we want x and y here. So I think it's important if you, these two correspond. This corresponds with y, and this, I'll put 3 marks, corresponds with 30. So Let's go 34 corresponds with x, as 16 corresponds to, well, actually I picked the wrong one. I shouldn't use 16, I should use 30 corresponds to 15. This way I only have one unknown. Well, we're going this way, so it's times 2. Sorry, we're going the other way. We're going this way. We're going this way. So divide by 2, and x equals 17. Okay. Here, oh, sorry, I have to find y. So what is x equals 17? So I'm going to put 17 over here. So we need another proportion. In this case, let's use 35 corresponds to 17, and 16 corresponds to y. 16 corresponds to y. So we're going that way. So we're going to go 34 to 17 is divided by 2. So we're going to divide 16 by 2, and y equals 8. You can cross multiply. This one I'll cross multiply. Okay, so this side corresponds to this side. This side corresponds to this side, and this side, 1, 2, 3, corresponds to this. We need x and y, so let's use 5 and 13 over here. So 5 corresponds to 14.4, and 13 corresponds to x. I think that's the point. So we can cross multiply. 5 times x is 5x. 14.4 times 13 equals, syntax error, 187.2. We're going to divide both sides by 5. And x equals 34.44. So we can go back here and write 34.44 for x. Now we need to find the y. So with the y we're going to use, so let's see, the y on this triangle corresponds with 12 on the other triangle, and then let's use a smaller number, and let's use 14.4 corresponds to 5. And again, cross multiply. 5 times y is 5y. 14.4 times 12 equals 172.8. We're going to divide both sides by 5. And y equals, divided by 5, y equals 34.56. Okay. So we have two triangles. So this, sometimes I think it's easier if you remove the triangles so that you understand what's going on here. So this is a top triangle. This is 6, and this is x. So I'm going to take now and draw the big triangle. The big triangle says that this guy here is 15, and this side here is the sum of 4 plus 6, which is 10. Now, can I set up a portion? Very easily. 6 corresponds to 10, as x corresponds to 15. You can cross multiply as it is if you like. You get 10x. 15 times 6 is 90. Divide both sides by 10. X equals 9. Okay. Same thing here. Divide that up like this. Small triangle, big triangle. In the small triangle, we have a 3, 4, 5. In the big triangle, I have that this is 12.5 and that this is x. That's what I have here. Okay. So now let's set up a proportion. I won't use 3 obviously, right? Because there's nothing here. I have an unknown value here for the side that corresponds with 3. So this and this I won't use, but I will use these two, 5 and 12.5, and I'll use 4 is x. So 5 corresponds to 12.5 as x as 4 from the small triangle. Corresponds to x. Well, 5x equals 12.5, 2550. Divide both sides by 5, and x equals 10. Alright, so a few word problems. So giraffe, let's draw giraffe is 18 feet tall. So we call that the giraffe 18 feet tall. And it has a shadow of 12 feet. Obviously, drawn. Okay, and then Corey, Corey, who's has a shadow of 4 feet, and we want to find his height. So we can use that. So 18 corresponds to x, and then that's 12 corresponds to 4. We can simplify. So this one, if you divide by 6, you get 3, and you get 2, right? And then is there a relationship here? Times 2 times 2, which makes x equals 6. So Corey, how tall is he? He's 6 feet tall. Ferris wheel has a 20-meter shadow. Okay, so I don't know how tall the Ferris wheel is. Call that x. A man who's standing right next to it has is 1.8 meters tall, and he has a shadow that's 2.4. So set up your proportion. X corresponds to 1.8, as 20 corresponds to 2.4. Cross multiply. 2.4x equals 20 times 1.8, which is the 20 times 1.8, which equals 36. Divide both sides by 2.4, 2.4, and x equals 36 divided by 2.4 equals 15. So the height of the Ferris wheel is 15. Okay. Nine. Flagpole. We have a flagpole at school. It has a shadow that's 28 feet. We don't know the height. Let's call that x. Person standing nearby has a shadow of 8 feet. The person is 6 feet tall. Again, set up proportion. X corresponds to 6, as 28 corresponds to 8. We can simplify. I don't know. This one actually, let's cross multiply. Because cross multiply, you get 8x equals 8, 12, plus 4, 168. Divide both sides by 8. X equals 21. So the height of the flagpole is 21. 10. Photograph. Okay, so here's a photograph. Measures 4 inches wide and 5 inches long. Okay, sorry, I did this backwards. 4 inches wide, so the width is 4 and the length is 5. And then the mural is 120 wide, and we don't know, and that's our, let's call this y this time. So 4 corresponds to 120, that's 5 corresponds to y. We can cross multiply. 4y equals 120 times 5, which is 620. Is it 620? Sorry, 600. Divide by 4, divide by 4, y equals 150. So this is 150. Very repetitive. So hopefully you don't have to do all of these. We have a ladder. Let's put a wall here. And then we have a ladder. A 9-foot ladder leans against a building 6 feet above the ground. So this is 6. This is 9, right? At what height would a 15-foot ladder touch the building if both ladders form the same angle with the ground? Did I draw this wrong? A 9-foot ladder leans against the building, so that's the ladder with the ground. Okay, so now here's a wall again. At what height would a 15-foot ladder? So we're looking for this height here. Let's call that x, and that's 15. If both ladders form the same angle with the ground, does they mean this angle right here? Yeah. So 6 corresponds to x, as 9 corresponds to 15. Let's simplify this one. So you get 2 over 3 going this way. It's 3 times 5, so 2 times 5 would be the multiplier, so x equals 10. So this would be 10 feet. 12. Chris wants to reduce a triangular pattern with sides. So we have a equilateral because two sides are the same. This is 16, this is 16, and this is 20, obviously. Okay. If the longest side of the new pattern, so we have another triangle, it's going to be a little bit smaller. But we know this guy is 15. So because we're equilateral, if this is x, this is also x. Well, how long should the other two sides be? Well, let's set up the proportion here. So we can say that this corresponds to this, as a 20 corresponds to 15. So we get 6 corresponds to x, as 20 corresponds to 15. Cross multiply, 20x. Cross multiply with 16 times 15, which is 240. Divide by 20, and x equals, so that will be 12, and obviously the other one will be 12. Right, that's it.